A property listing that doesn't sell because it's overpriced rapidly becomes a liability. But how do you know before you list if the property that you're about to start marketing will in fact sell? After all, it is the seller's decision when, how, and for how much they're going to sell their property. All of these factors come together as a measure of motivation. Here's a great way to check the motivation of any seller is ask them to contribute to the marketing of their property. Having the skill to get vendor-paid advertising is critical if you're going to be successful. Mark Pickles from Harcourts Solution has some golden rules about VPA. He'll join us in just a moment to discuss the most common objections he receives, the importance of seller contribution at social media and press, and the part that they play.
Yeah, vendor paid advertising. I guess for most people it's an evil that needs to be ignored at all costs. At the end of the day, I think the main objection is the cost involved of vendor paid advertising. It's one of the few markets in the world that has the level of VPA. In Australia that's seen anywhere else in the world is not the same, but that's the main objection, is the cost involved. So how we overcome that, generally speaking, with the client base in vendor paid advertising essentially is it's about proving the theory, and we have to show, look, properties, very similar properties in the same market, advertise almost exclusively with the same value proposition, so number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. Those with vendor paid advertising tend to sell better for more dollars and more quickly than those without vendor paid advertising. How we overcome that is demonstrating the number of extra views that the properties see online, the number of extra offers received, and therefore, because you're in a competitive environment, the final sell price tends to be somewhat higher in terms of percentage. Hugely important for us in our business to get the seller to pay marketing, in the fact that we know it's actually the best way to sell a property, and we're not going to recommend a way that's not the best way to sell a property at the end of the day, because the client is on the market for a reason, and that is to sell the property. Then the choice of agent that they use and the platforms that they use to go on the market with is how well they're going to sell that property, and then ultimately what they take away from the deal is more important to them. I believe social media and the internet is definitely changing how we market property. In terms of how we can reach more clients more cost effectively, definitely. The social media boost is something that, whilst it's a short-lived concept, it only takes a few days and then all of a sudden it's all news. The fact is it's a very, very cost-effective way of marketing property. In terms of social media platform, we have video content, which is often a combination of some key photography within that space and or a video specifically designed for social media, because again, social media is something that's very instant for people, and I think if they see something that's a long video, they tend not to get involved too much, but if it's a snapshot type of video, that seems to be very important to the clients as well. So it's not the whole element of what we do in advertising, but it's certainly an important element that, in my view, we cannot ignore. In terms of using press in the marketing campaigns, I think that generally that's a very property specific discussion topic. There are certain properties that do very well on the back of a press campaign in terms of capturing passive buyers particularly. However, as we know, with active buyers in a certain type of property market, press investment can be expensive compared to the return on investment that you get from that, and not necessarily guaranteed to add an extra few $1,000s on your sale price. Initially, vendor paid advertising is brought up in 2 or 3 different parts of the listing presentation. So I start the campaign talking about, the methodology of sale, the agent you're going to use, and what platforms you're going to utilize. So 3 different aspects of the listing presentation are covered off initially to set the agenda, and then once we go through the agenda, we then address that vendor paid advertising again, and then thirdly and finally, once we are agreed that we're actually going to work together, then we talk about the specifics of the campaign that's going to be tailored to suit their property. When we do listing presentation, we have several different marketing campaigns available, and obviously the idea being is we tailor the marketing campaign to suit that particular campaign on that particular property. But essentially the vendors have a choice on which marketing campaign they can use, and we present the various merits and benefits of each of those choices, essentially designed to ensure that the vendor gets the best possible return on investment for their marketing campaign.
At the end of the day, you need to ensure that whatever campaign you're recommending is going to return value for the seller. Now that may seem to be a fairly obvious statement. However, the reason that many people believe vendor paid advertising is a cost, or as Mark describes it, a necessary evil, is because they don't see value. Show them the evidence, like examples from previous campaigns, success stories or statistics that you can provide from the experience of other agents in your office. Mark also made the point that advertising property for sale in Australia is more expensive than almost anywhere else in the world. You and I can't change that. We have to live with it and we have to deal with it. Thanks to Mark, and thanks to you for joining us. I'm Kevin Turner, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Real Deal.